Okay, I am now calling this April 8th school board meeting to order. Madam Secretary, would you do roll call?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Taylor,
Present.
Mr. Trimmer,
Here.
Mr. Ponder.
Here.
Mr. Larson.
Here.
Thank you. Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Berge is here, and I am here. We have a full board with 5 on teleconference and 2 at the meeting.
Dr. Welton, would you read the board goals, please?
Matanuska Susitna Borough School District, our vision, mission, beliefs, goals, and principles. Our vision, Matsu Borough School District will be a model of excellence in teaching, learning, and engaging all students. Matsu Borough School District prepares all students for success. We believe that the needs and best interests of students drive all decisions. All students can and want to learn. Educational choices and community participation are essential to student success. Our goals: improve student success, achievement, and performance. Develop excellent educators and leaders. Use innovative practices to improve the education system. Include families and community members in the education of our students. Promote safe and healthy environments for all. Our guiding principles. These guiding principles will drive our decisions and our responsibility to our students, families, and community. Stewardship, accountability, empathy, quality, integrity, respect, collaboration, and commitment.
Dr. Goyette will now lead us in the pledge. Okay, now I'd like to hear a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
This is Jeff. I second it.
So we're going to give that to Mr. Trimmer, I believe.
Yep.
Okay, is there any objection? Hearing none, the agenda has been approved. Dr. Goyette, do you have any guidelines to add?
No further information, just that these meetings now are all public telephonic. And I'm going to switch, oh, there we go. All of our meetings are telephonic now, and we just ask that individuals hoping or wishing to testify on agenda and non-agenda items contact Stacy Escobedo on 3 p.m. of the day of the meeting.
Okay, now we are moving on to persons to be heard on non-agenda items. Dr. Welton?
Public comment pertaining to education on non-agenda items is limited to 3 minutes per person per meeting. There will be up to 1 hour for persons to be heard. Public comment on agenda items will be taken at the time the item is considered. This is your opportunity to be heard, and the board will not respond to your comments. As per Board Policy 1312, individuals testifying may not discuss complaints against individual employees. Specifically, under the agenda item, persons to be heard on non-agenda items, the following guidelines apply. The speaker states his or her name for the record. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes per meeting. The speaker is limited to non-agenda items. Agenda items will be open for public comment as they appear on the agenda. The speaker's comments should be appropriate for all audiences, including school-age children. The speaker is limited to comments of a general nature, positive or negative, which may not be attributable to any specific individual. Issues involving concerns specific to any single individual should be submitted in writing, given to the board clerk to be resolved. Issue may be determined to be appropriate for persons to be heard, or may be handled in executive session, or may be routed through a more appropriate complaint process. No disturbance or willful interruption of any board meeting shall be permitted. Persistence by an individual or group shall be grounds for the chair to terminate the privilege of addressing the meeting. This is not a question and answer time. Speakers may be referred to the superintendent or designate, or the board may take the issue under advisement. And this is the first half hour.
Okay, I've got the list, and I'll be calling individuals forward to testify. Because we have a full 10 people on the roster today and only a half hour, would like to make sure that everybody stays to their 3 minutes without going over. So the first person that I have is Tammy Dormus. Tammy, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Tammy Doremus. I am an employee of First Student as well as one of your constituents. Anytime given the opportunity to address the board is a distinct pleasure, and I thank you. It's been said that courage is not the absence of fear, but the will to do what is right and just, and it is in that conviction that I address you today. It's my hope that the letter that I wrote to you painted out a perspective that you may have overlooked while making last week's decision regarding First Student. Last week's decision, the cause and effect may have long-term ramifications on those whom you represent. The number of people affected through First Student is not over 200, but several hundred. Many of those family members, school-age children, elderly, and disabled that we support have no voice. What decisions you make today will have ripple effects tomorrow over many in the Matsu Valley. Currently, we are receiving 4 hours of pay per day. For those who had opted to pay for health insurance, those premiums are still being deducted. And unemployment sees that as income. As a result, they are unable to provide basic needs for their families. These premiums cannot be canceled unless employees were able to procure other forms of health insurance benefits, which we do not qualify for in many cases. The only other way out is to quit our jobs. In the coming months, we will be faced with many challenges, some of which you can alleviate now by releasing funds to cover our full pay retroactive from March 17th, 2020. In doing this, you are investing in the community that you serve. You will be offering support to those in desperate need, and I promise it will not go unnoticed. Fiscal responsibility is of grave importance right now. Funds that might have been allocated for transportation would help to alleviate the already overburdened state programs. It is a guessing game to project when state and federal funds may become available, furthering damaging to those who are already at risk. Our community would most assuredly benefit from the consistent support of our drivers, attendants, and monitors. However, if swift action on your part is not taken, many will be forced to find other forms of employment, causing serious shortages that the Matsu cannot support due to a lack of infrastructure mentioned in my letter. Our First Student employees have a heart for their community they serve, as well as among the highest safety standards that is above that of the national average. It is all of our wish to offer hope, love, support in this difficult time. It will always remain our desire to work alongside of our communities. This is the strength of our First Student employees who have performed amazing feats in times of adversity. All of our people are exceptional. In the 10 and a half plus years I have worked there, it has been my privilege to work beside them. We are a family and no one should be left behind. I pray you return to the table and reason together, come to an equitable solution for all. And once again, I thank you.
Okay. Is there a Kay Huxford on the line? Kay, are you with us?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Kay Huxford, and I'm an English language learner case manager and support teacher. My 10 colleagues and I work throughout the district to support equal education opportunities for students of all grades and all levels of ability who speak or have a language other than English in their home. By definition of our position, our primary goal is to assist students to not only attain English proficiency, but to succeed academically. Through remote learning, our EL team continues to do just that. We continue to support our schools through our attendance in online school-wide staff meetings and in conferences with grade level and department level teams. We support individual teachers in delivering instruction, sometimes through necessary modifications and accommodations to instructional materials. And as we continue to attend IEP and 504 meetings and complete compliance records to meet federal requirements for student support, we also provide family outreach and proficiency assessments. Perhaps not surprisingly, our team is proficient in many languages ourselves and have a deep awareness of the cultures served in our Valley schools. As Assistant Superintendent Spargo shared in your meeting last week, our team was actively involved in completing the initial needs assessment contacts made to all families in the district. And now we are in the unique position to continue to act as primary contacts through which schools have been able to communicate to our parents and students. Our EL team is keeping families informed of changing policies and requirements, including online versus paper-pencil engagement expectations, newly adapted rubrics and grading criteria, and changes to graduation ceremonies. We're helping parents and students negotiate technology and learning management systems, safely guiding them into unfamiliar territories of Google Classrooms and Zoom meetings. And even amidst the current chaos, our EL team is working with middle and high school counselors to prepare for the next school year, considering students' needs based on academic and social emotional growth, creating appropriate schedules, and recommending classroom assignments based on the positive relationships we know are especially vital to the success of our other language, other culture students. As an EL team, it has become significantly necessary for us to reach further than our support to students and the daily demands of remote learning. We believe all students deserve not only an equitable educational opportunity, but also an equitable chance at personal health, wellness, and success. So most profoundly, our EL team has significantly expanded our role of what whole students and whole family support looks like. In recent weeks, our immediate goal was to confirm that each of our families had a safe home environment, adequate nutrition, and functioning utilities. We connected families with community services for financial, nutritional, health-based resources. And we assured that our team, our teachers, our staff, and our administrators are still here for them, that this temporary move outside the walls of our schools has only served to build our strength as a community and our resilience to hardship. Thank you for your time.
And next, Kathleen Hansen. Kathleen, are you online?
I am.
There we go. The next 3 minutes are yours.
All right. Good evening. My name is Kathleen Hansen, and I am a parent to a senior in the MAPSU, as well as an educator in this great community. I'm calling in to speak on behalf of my senior and on behalf of the families of seniors who do not agree with the virtual graduation. I emailed the entire school board last week with a very detailed letter in regards to this sensitive subject. I heard back from one. A graduation ceremony is meant to be a turning point, a milestone in a student's life. A virtual graduation discredits the work they put in. It will feel like another Zoom meeting that has to fit into their schedule and will be forgotten in a week's time. After talking to my senior and other seniors in our district, the majority of them have said that they will not participate in a virtual graduation because it's not meaningful. Is that what we really want for them? The graduating class of 2020 will no longer have those special days like senior prom and grad blast, or the next 2 months of learning and growing together with their classmates. The one last thing that they hope to get back is a real graduation ceremony. What myself and the majority of the community doesn't understand is why postponing all graduations has never been an option. We understand it is not safe at this time, but it will be safe to hold on an in-person graduation in the future. Why is virtual graduation the only option that has been given to the class of 2020? Did you survey seniors and get their input, or did you ask the families of seniors that have looked forward to this day? You didn't. If you survey the needs of our community for everything else, Why did you not survey the community on one of the most important scheduled events in our school district? On behalf of parents and seniors across the Matsu Borough School District, we would rather wait to have an in-person graduation ceremony to highlight our seniors' accomplishments that they have achieved in the Matsu Borough School District than resort to a virtual one. Give the graduating class of 2020 something to look forward to. Thank you.
Is there a Jackie Cunningham on the line?
Yes.
Okay, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Hey, my name is Jackie Cunningham. I'm from Colony High School, and I wanted to share a few things that our teachers have been doing this week. Becca Grinnell is our special ed life skills teacher. She has her kids engaged with remote learning. She said they are studying light and sound waves. On Monday, after their group Zoom meeting, she posted a link to a science experiment on their Google Classroom. Today in their group Zoom meeting, one of the students shared her complete experiment. Remote learning has allowed her students to involve their families in their learning through extensive activities. Another student was really excited about the extension activity he demonstrated this morning. He was already gathering the items to do the experiment as they were logging off for the day. She has also had students who struggle with online engagement. She delivered hands-on material to them, collaborated with their parents on how to implement the specialized program at home. She's been creating interactive slideshows and sharing them on Google Classroom. They gave kids immediate feedback of correct and incorrect answers. Students have responded that they really like the interactive skills. Dina Sawyer is our behavior support program teacher, and she's been doing weekly social skills Zoom meetings with all of the students with behavioral and social emotional goals. They play games, they chat about what everyone's doing to cope with the quarantine. The kids enjoy getting together for their social meeting and sharing what they miss, what they can't wait to do when life goes back to normal. They enjoy playing a game with each other, with Mrs. Sawyer leading them through it. This is helping them manage their frustrations at this time that their schedules are completely messed up. Julie Case is one of our English teachers at Colony High, and she's having students send pictures of the things that they're doing during this time of quarantine, and she's posting them on their classroom site. They have weekly Zoom meetings just so that kids can get some FaceTime, catch up a bit about their lives. For some of these students, school is their main lifeline with classmates. A few kids are having a hard time tracking down the personal reading book and one of their websites that she gave them, so she had them tell her what the book was, and she found it, downloaded it, and emailed it to them. So she went that extra mile. She had an email from a parent which said, "On behalf of our household, I want to also thank you and your fellow teacher peers for the outstanding efforts and hard work that went into making this transition extremely easy. I am happy to report that remote learning for both our children has been enjoyable, manageable, provides the kids with a sense of purpose, as well as gives them a connectivity to something familiar. We appreciate you so much. I wish that I had more time to share more wonderful things that are happening at Colony High School, but I'll have to wait until next week for that. Thank you."
Marilyn Mothershead, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Marilyn, you have the next 3 minutes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, Marilyn, the floor is yours.
Hello?
Nope.
I can't get through.
No. It's okay, Marilyn. We will try to work on that, and I'll come back to you, okay? Okay, Christina Straw, are you online?
Yes.
Or Kirsten, I'm sorry. So, the next 3 minutes are yours.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kristen Strong. I am a parent of 4 children who attend 3 different schools here in the Valley. I am also a teacher here in the Matsu since 2001. I'm here today to share with you some of the amazing things the teachers are doing with my 4 children. Carter is in 2nd grade, goes to Cottonwood Creek, and his teacher is Mrs. Brilliard. Oh my goodness, she is amazing. She has recorded a Zoom lesson for math, reading, and writing every single day. Carter logs in each morning and watches Mrs. Brilliard teach the lessons just like he was sitting in her classroom. It is very special for me as a mother to watch him talk to her during the recording. I love seeing and hearing her voice in my front room every single day. Carter has not missed a beat in learning to read, decode, comprehend, and write because his teacher loves him enough to teach him no matter the circumstances. Kenzie is a sixth grader at Wasilla Middle School. Every Monday morning, she gets up at 7:30 a.m. to be at a math Zoom meeting with Mr. Miley. She loves seeing his face, interacting with her classmates, and asking questions about her math work. She is one chapter ahead of her classmates because she loves math, and he is letting her work at an individualized, accelerated pace. She is loving the flexibility that distance delivery is giving her. Mrs. Wake, her Western Hemisphere teacher, makes her weekly lessons available every Monday morning. Kenzie can crunch it all in one day or work a little bit at a time. The expectations are clear, and then there are Zoom meetings where Kenzie can get all her questions answered. Cody is an eighth grader at middle school. His teachers have all prepared lessons through their learning management system. They are using Google Classroom and Schoology to post their assignments, videos, links, etc. His PE teacher, Mr. Ranella, gives his students the choice to do something physical each day for 30 minutes. Cody loves this because he's a state champ wrestler, and he can work on specific skills that pertain to his sport. I am thankful for personalized and meaningful instruction for my eighth grade boys. Camille is a junior at Career and Tech High School. It amazes me how our chemistry teacher, Mrs. McDowell, clearly explains chemistry topics through her Zoom lessons so that my daughter can continue learning higher level concepts in chemistry. Mrs. Whitehurst has my daughter for 3 classes. Each week, she does an emotional check-in with her students to see how they are doing. The relationship she has previously created with her students gives my daughter a safe place to find peace amongst all the chaos right now. Mr. Lancer, Camille's U.S. history and psychology teacher, is teaching employability skills by having students check in daily for their work. He is using platforms that the students enjoy. Camille messaged him the other evening with a question. He responded within 10 minutes, and it was definitely outside of his contract hours. My kids, like many others, live in 2 different homes. I have noticed how supportive our teachers have been with multiple households, weekly assignments, and the ability to complete assignments when it is manageable for families, working parents, and their children. The teachers here in the MAPSU are loving and teaching my children, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for not letting COVID-19 stop education for my kids. Our teachers are definitely preparing my children and all teachers for success. Thank you, board members, for all of your support and all of your efforts during these challenging times.
Kelly Green, are you with us?
I am.
Okay, Kelly, the floor is yours for the next 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. I am a special ed assistant over at Houston Junior Senior Middle School, and I wanted to let you know how grateful we are that you gave us the opportunity to continue working in a meaningful way. We have found all kinds of creative things to keep ourselves busy and contributing to our students and families. One of the things I do is assist my teacher with the online classes that you've heard some wonderful things happening with this in the other schools. I help input those assignments. I help give one-on-one instruction. Like I said, I'm a special ed assistant, so some of my students require a little extra finesse and creative instruction to help them through the hurdles of these technologies. Some of the other things we're doing at our school are, we've never seen this school so clean. There are things being taken care of that usually takes place at the summertime, but we're hitting it now and we will be ready when we open again. I mentioned that we take on creative assignments. I volunteered to deliver lunches to families that cannot meet the drop-off point. And in the community that we work and live, there are a lot of people struggling right now. I have 32 students that I'm delivering lunches to at this time. Each week, another couple seem to be added in. The families are very appreciative. They want you to know how much this means to them. Some of these families, this is their food source for their children, and they can't thank me enough. I'm practicing social distancing. I have a place designated that I leave the lunches, and I call and let them know when they're dropped off. And every time I speak with the families, they can't tell me enough how thankful they are that this is being made available for them and their families. This month we did a Student of the Month a special lunch to the students that had been nominated by their teachers. And so I had extra deliveries today, and those children were waiting at the door when I came to bring them their special lunch that they had ordered. The families really appreciate what you've been doing for them, and allowing us the opportunities to do these extra things. Another creative thing that we've started doing at our school is making masks. The cloth, the homemade masks for people to wear. I came up with the idea that maybe our families that we were delivering lunches to might need them, and as I put the idea around, more people were interested. Our lunch ladies would like them, and some of the staff members would like them. And then I was approached by our union to be a member of a group of people from the classified union that will be making masks for the school district, lunch people and other folks that will be out in the public. I wanted you to know that we appreciate the opportunity to do this extra work and to be available to do these things. And I thank you for this opportunity and your time and your strong wisdom to keep this school district going and supporting us in our endeavors to keep our families and students going in their education. Thank you.
Thank you. Leslie Vale, are you online? Leslie? We'll go back to her. Karen Salisbury, are you online?
I am.
Okay, Karen, the next 3 minutes are yours.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, good evening, President Berge, Dr. Goya, and members of the board. So I'm Karen Salisbury, President of the Classified Employees Association. And first, I would like to thank all of you for your commitment to the students, the schools, and the staff and the community of the Mat-Su Valley. Your dedication and hard work is evident, and it's very much appreciated. You heard tonight from ACE support staff. There was a couple others who were going to speak, both Marilyn and Leslie. Not sure what happened there. But those are just a few of the 900 plus support staff who wanted to share how they are supporting our students, school staff, and community as well. These are just a few examples of the ongoing work being accomplished in our district. And as the next month progresses, I'll make sure to have others share their stories with you too. Their dedication and imagination and unwavering commitment to an excellent education is truly inspiring. At this time, we have many support staff who still continue to physically report to work sites. I would like to give a huge shout out to those employees because they are on the front lines every day. These are formidable times right now, and they're working in buildings, working with other employees, delivering food and materials to families, while still trying to keep themselves and their own families safe. It's scary for many of them, especially those who are more vulnerable during this pandemic than others. Every single support staff that I have spoken to over the past few weeks have embraced our new way of life. They've rose to our new challenges and began shifting their mindset to quickly jump in. They're doing what education support professionals are known for, seeing what needs to be done, rolling up their sleeves, and figuring out a way to get it done. I'm sure you can imagine how proud I am right now to be the elected president of such an amazing group of dedicated educators. Thank you for your time and your trust and your patience. And please keep up the good work.
Tamara Chipman, are you online? Tamara?
Can you hear me?
Yes, is this Tamara?
Oh. Yes.
Okay, the next 3 minutes are yours.
Hi, my name is Tamara Chipman, and I work for First Student, and I've worked there over 10 years. And this is the first time we've ever had a loss of income due to a pandemic. and lack of support from the borough during these trying times. Currently, we're getting 4 hours a day pay. Normally, my standard route is approximately 8 hours. With this 4-hour pay, we have medical, dental, vision, union dues, and taxes coming out. So some of us employees are taking home less than $200 every 2 weeks. That's $100 a week of take-home pay. Because of the 4 hours a day, some of us don't qualify for unemployment, while some of us are receiving $6 every 2 weeks. My normal pay for every 2 weeks is approximately $1,200 take home. That's after being employed with First Student over 10 years. Not only will this affect our unemployment this year, but it'll also affect our unemployment next year because of loss of wages from the pandemic. With this lack of income due to the pandemic, many of us are facing financial disasters such as losing our homes, our vehicles, and lack of money for food or other bills. We are asking you at this time to please reconsider your decision on not paying us our full wages during this pandemic. As a single parent, I know that this puts a financial burden on me, taking home $400 versus $2,400 a month. I ask you to please reconsider your decision, and I want to thank you for your time.
Okay, we're going to go back to the two who weren't online. Marilyn Mothershead, are you still with us? Or have you come back?
I'm here.
Okay, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. So the next 3 minutes are yours, Marilyn.
Okay, thank you. I'm a special ed assistant at Iditarod Elementary, and I just want to thank you guys first for coming up with a contract that we could all agree on. I also want to take a few minutes and let you know what we have done since we have come back to work as special ed assistants. Many of us have different variations of work. I originally came back and we escorted the families into the classrooms to pick up personal items. With the late hours one day, early hours the next day, we made it through it. We're learning how to change. Next, we started to process and check out computers. At this point, we've checked out 275 computers to families. And during that process, we also had to call parents up and let them know the computers were ready. And we did that from our home. Next, after that, we were inventorying computers for other schools to use. We also were given chores around the building, cleaning, doing a deep clean in the staff lounge, as well as cleaning the popcorn poppers for the PTA, putting all the chairs and tables away that were in the gym for meetings, removing items off the wall. We have been attending PD trainings through Zoom, as well as starting a new PD, Teach Before the Peak of the Storm. And that's going to be a continued webinar for I'm not sure how long. Today we started sewing face masks. We also have been checking the paper and pencil packets that are outside of our school. We've been doing that every other day and update the contents as needed. Next week, along with all these other tasks, I'll also start doing a direct instruction meeting on Zoom. We've continued having staff meetings on Zoom, as well as within our behavior support program. We do a weekly meeting there, so our students know what to expect for the week. Our admin secretary and Mr. Percello contacts us several times at home to come into the building because some work needs to be done there. Several of us always head up there and do that without any problem. I know this is a new world, and being flexible is our new normal. I am now a small group teacher I am part-time custodian. I am an office assistant, and now I am a temporary seamstress, and I'm also doing PD training. It's my last year for the school district. I'm retiring, and it's kind of sad to go out with this pandemic, but it'll be okay. I want to thank you all for your support and to continue saying prayers for our community and the other communities that have lost people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leslie Vale, are you back with us? Leslie?
Yes,
Yes. If you,
yes,
Can-
sir.
okay, you can hear me. So the next 3 minutes are yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the school board. My name is Leslie Vale, and I represent myself as a CEA member and a 20-plus year employee of the Mat-Su Borough School District. My 3 kids graduated through Mat-Su Borough Schools, and 10 grandkids are currently attending Mat-Su Borough Schools. I requested to speak this evening so you are aware of the current work situations of many of our classified employees. My job duties as a record specialist for Student Support Services have not changed with the current school closures and COVID-19 mandates. However, my workload has increased as new paperwork has been required for all students receiving special ed services. I am responsible for 3 special ed departments within our district. Due to the new Synergy computer system the district launched this year, I have worked an average of 48 hours per week all year. Last week, I worked 54 hours for 40 hours of pay due to the new required COVID-19 paperwork. The secondary special ed teachers that I work with directly are working 3 times harder and putting in many additional hours to complete mandated paperwork on top of teaching and providing curriculum to 6 classes a day. They are also required to have hard copy curriculum for students that don't have technology available to participate electronically. This is potentially 12 lesson plans a day before their required special ed paperwork. Additionally, there has been a huge learning curve for delivering everything electronic for many, many employees across our district. The CEA paraprofessionals are a critical component in assisting our special ed teachers in getting all of this accomplished in a timely manner. They are creating video lessons, assisting parents to navigate Google Classroom and many technology needs they don't understand, delivering materials to students' homes directly, and many, many other requirements. Registrars and admin secretaries are completing the required duties and more. Our custodians and maintenance departments are working extremely hard to clean and make sure that our buildings are safe upon our return. In conclusion, all CEA employees are essential to the success of providing students the best possible opportunities to learn in our new distance learning environment we are currently in. I encourage you to support all CEA and MSBA and first student employees during this difficult and unprecedented time. We are all working harder now than we ever have before. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wish you all good health in the weeks to come and your continued support of Mat-Su Borough School District employees. Thank you.
And thank you all for taking forth and coming to the board to testify. Now we're going to move on to borough and city reports. Do we have anybody online from any of the borough or city? No, we don't. So we're going to move on to administrative reports. Dr. Goyette?
Yes, it's my pleasure to ask Assistant Superintendent Amy Spargo up to the podium. She will be giving the board an update on remote learning.
Good evening, President Berge, Dr. Goyette, members of the board. It is with pride that I give you an update on how things are going in our schools, and a reminder that our schools are not just our buildings. Our schools are our people and our relationships and the activities that go on there. And school is going on in the Mat-Su Borough. One thing we've noticed this week is that we are approaching our work with a mixture of grief and gratitude, and you heard some of that in the testimony, but I also, as I work through this presentation, you'll see that a lot of loss has happened as we move forward with all of our spring traditions being lost, and really the parts we like the best about our jobs are being with people. And as our teachers communicate with us, we have heard over and over again how much they miss the kids. So I'm going to start with talking about just kind of a look at the numbers and trying to paint a picture with just some of the stats from remote learning. Then we're going to look at some different ways we're building out support for families. Our families find themselves in an unpredictable or unexpected spot, being teachers at home and supporting remote learning, so we want to support them the best we can. We're going to spotlight student learning for early literacy and reading, and how are our struggling readers being taught at home. We're going to look at the class of 2020 and how are we taking care of our seniors and making graduation a memorable celebration. And I'm not sure for any other group that the grief and gratitude is so evident as with this group of historic seniors. And our hearts are with them, and we know there's nothing we can do to replace what they've lost. Student safety, we liken it to we took kids on a big field trip and they got off the bus before we told them what the rules of the road were. And so we dumped our kids into online learning, and we're circling back to make sure that we're acting safely there. So how's it going? Well, we've been closed almost 4 weeks now. In that time, we have sponsored 48 digital PD sessions, and one theme that's come forward is that we are all learning. I heard a teacher say, I feel like I'm a student teacher again. I'm one step ahead of my kids some days, and my confidence is shook. I'm hoping I'm getting it right. But our teachers are resilient, and they are working really hard to deliver quality instruction. A few examples of the PD that we've done and the scale that they are. We're teaching Love and Logic. Mary Watts from Pioneer Peak Elementary has 380 participants in 2 different sessions of Love and Logic. And some parents are joining us in our online PD sessions, and that's been super rewarding and exciting to interact with parents in that way. Love and Logic is making parenting and teaching fun instead of stressful and chaotic. And if there's one thing we know is everyone needs a little less stress and a little less chaos in these days. We have Matsu Central staff who are regular presenters of ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences, and Michelle Boyden had 88 participants of parents and staff in her trainings this last week. We're teaching getting started with Zoom, getting started with Google Classroom providing feedback and tracking student work, and distance delivery for students with severe disabilities. Throughout all this PD, we've had 10,609 adult participants, and of course there are many duplicates in that number, but we're counting only the meetings that are set up by district level of leaders who have registrations. These aren't the participants who are using the free accounts, and so you can see that the adults in our school district are working hard to get better and better, and are doing that on top and simultaneously at the same time that they're teaching their classes. We have 1,071 teachers using Google Classrooms. That's an unduplicated number, and to me that is remarkable how fast that got scaled up. I would stand that number and percentage up to any district in America. Our kids are incredibly productive. We have worked for years at helping our students be producers, not just consumers of technology, and we have a program called Gaggle that is sort of the caretaker and the watch of everything Google. And Google, every student has a Google email and a Google Drive account. And through those accounts, we are able to track how many things they've made or written or developed. And 382,095 is an incredible amount. Typically, we looked back how much were being made anyway before the school closure, and we were averaging around 250,000 creations a month in our school district, so we're way above that already in just 20 days of closure or 18 days of closure. You've heard us talk about, somebody testified about all the IEP amendments. We are moving from providing accommodations to students with disabilities in schools to trying to support them at home, and then also making sure we have a plan for when they return. We've addressed 71% of our students that have IEPs, and we hope to have the rest done very shortly within the next week. We are working to support our parents and our family members who are find themselves in the middle of a public health crisis. I do have a mistake on this. The hotlines are available from 8 to 4, and anybody in the whole district can call these hotlines if they have a health question or a question for counselors. One of the most exciting things that's coming forward is a parent website, which is going to be the one-stop shop for remote learning for parents. And we're very excited to see, I got a preview of it today. There's cyber safety, digital citizenship. There's going to be tips and tricks for parents to navigate Zoom and be able to help their students with their Google Suite, their Google Drive files, and lots of ways that parents can also engage in remote learning while they are supporting their kids. Early literacy is at the top of our priority list during this closure because we know without phonemic awareness, students will struggle learning to read. We also know that students who struggle to read proficiently are more likely to struggle in their other subjects as well, like science and math, and they fall further and further behind their peers as school goes on. We also know that students that struggle to read are more likely to drop out of school, so even though in the big picture this extended closure isn't a huge part of their 13 years of education, for those students who are learning to read, it's a critical time in their school experience. The graphic on the left isn't really easy to see, but that is our district's team, and that's Rhonda Hewitt's page where she has 3 different weekly early literacy classes for participants to learn how to deliver direct instruction and ensure that kids are still making progress on catch-up growth if they were behind in reading. Her 150 teachers log in, and they're classified as well. They log in, they plan lessons, they get tips for how to deliver on Zoom, and then they also collaborate together on what's working best. And so there's a real support system there as well. It really wouldn't be fair to just talk about it though, because you get the whole point of the power of this. If you watch one little guy, his name is Kedrick, and his mom sent this video to her son's principal at Snowshoe Elementary. Jason Moore sent it to us to show us what a good job the reading instruction is doing online. And Kedrick's mom says that she was super impressed with his teacher, and his teacher is Mrs. Morgan. And this is a Haggerty phonemic awareness lesson, and just by way of information, all kindergarten and first grade teachers in our whole district are teaching Haggerty for phonemic awareness this year as a way to increase early literacy. And they were able to figure out how to make that happen even though school closed. So this is Kedrick.
Check. Ship. What's the beginning sound? C-H. I heard you. Nicely done. Listen again. Share, shave, shin. What's the beginning sound? S-H. Shh. It is. Well done. Listen again. Them, there, then. T-H. The beginning sound for these 3. You got it. Listen again. Chime, cheek, chest. C-H. C-H. It is. Last.
And I love the background soundtrack that just reminds us that moms are helping their kindergartners learn to read while they're having their babies and filming at the same time, having babies in their arms, and he's got a little sister, so that was pretty fun.
Check.
So the class of 2020 is making history, and the seniors are going through a time that really should be one of pure celebration and joy, and instead there's just great disappointment and loss. And we are working as much as we can to support them in this time. We appreciate their courage. A lot of them have reached out to us and said, we know it's no one's fault, and we are here to help, and they're going to be done with school by the end of the first week in May. So we have done some things planning around the virtual graduation, and while we know that there may be other events in the future, we're not saying nothing is going to happen beyond this, but we did not want this special day to go by without there being something to mark this occasion. And so virtual graduations are going to be pre-recorded events, and we're going to have as much of, if you were ever at the Menard Center and watched the graduation on the big screen, we're hoping to kind of recreate that for you for the viewers. And so there's going to be students are going to submit their pictures. They can be in their cap and gown. There will be the principals are going to do speeches. Students are going to do speeches. There'll be musical numbers. And then there's going to be roll call where every single student has their picture and has their name. And it's a downloadable link, so everyone can, a wide variety of people can watch it. You can share it on your social media posts. And families all over the country who can't travel can be there. And they're going to be broadcast at the same time as the graduation was originally scheduled. So all those graduation pre-printed announcements are still going to be for the right time. Only it's just going to be a link. We know it's no comparison, and we know it's difficult to give that up. And I hope that there's a time we can get together and celebrate in some way. But in the meantime, this is something that we feel must happen, and is a great way for us to really mark a historic event in a different way. Other ways we're taking care of our class of 2020, the board, as you know, was very supportive of waiving the MSBSD credit requirement, and we're going to see the largest class probably get through instead of it being the opposite in this pandemic. We're going to get a lot of kids over the bar. We're working on checking all those transcripts, making sure everybody's ready, and we're working on post-secondary planning because life, as has been mentioned, life doesn't stop, or that it's not the end of a journey when you graduate, it's the beginning of a journey when you graduate. And so we're focusing on the future as well. Our counselors are making sure that kids are ready for career and technical schools, college, military, or going directly into the world of work. They're checking in regularly with their seniors and helping them manage this loss. And their teachers are very aware as well that this is a difficult time and are providing extra support and a view for the future. I mentioned that online safety would have been something if we could have sat down and taken all of this in sequentially. We would have started with online safety, and of course we're always mindful of student safety. There's been a lot of news lately about Zoom and Zoom bombing, and I think that I always say that Zoom bombing is just so fun to say that we talk about it a lot, but really it's actually quite preventable. And we are using Zoom in a lot of our classrooms, but we have turned on a password that is in the link to join so that students can't just click on it without having been invited. We're using the wait room, so when you log into a Zoom classroom, you wait in a separate area and only the host can click you in. And so when the host clicks you in, if the host doesn't recognize you, you never get to join the group. We've limited screen sharing, so the host is the only one who can screen share. If you leave screen sharing on, someone can take over the screen, and that's what a Zoom bomb is. And we're also teaching through last week we talked about how we're pushing out information to our schools, and so we're teaching our ed techs, are teaching our digital first responders, who are teaching our teachers about all the ways to keep everyone safe on Zoom. And just recently, we've had some more trainings and making sure that links are not posted in public places like websites. Another primary way that we're keeping kids safe online is Gaggle. Gaggle promotes safety and well-being of our students on their school-issued Google emails and Drive accounts. And Gaggle is on filtering 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And what that means is that anytime a kid logs into their Google account and that makes a form or a sheet or a doc or a presentation or any kind of the Drive functions, that it gets filtered through Gaggle. And of those 300,000 creations that they made, about 6.3 of them were flagged as having some concern. And of those that had a concern, 78% of them were inappropriate words. And when we look at when we look at the Gaggle files, the inappropriate words we're finding out that kids are using their Google Docs as a chat room. And so they're logging onto the same doc and just having a online chat with each other. And sometimes they use bad words, and that gets flagged by the filter because this is all really intended to be for school assignments. But we're glad that they're finding ways to connect socially. We also find that kids often put song lyrics on their Google Drives, and then those get flagged. 21% of the Google flags are questionable content, and really 1% of that tiny amount are where we intercept a message that could be possible a student safety, where a student is talking about danger to self or others. And I would say that one of our best interventions that we've had in the last few years for preventing student suicide and threats of violence is Ben Gaggle, because kids tend to write about what they're thinking about, and we catch it early. And it's made a huge difference. And it's something that every time it comes up, our principals are trained, and there's a plan, and there's a response, and parents are engaged right from the very beginning, and never once has it. Sometimes it's nothing. Sometimes we're super concerned, and it turns out to be a song lyric or something. But parents are always thrilled that there is a safeguard and that they're in the loop right away. Next week, I'm going to talk about cyber safety curriculum that's going out, and our parent resource page that's going out. But that is the report for now, and I would be happy to entertain any questions.
President Berge, this is Member Taylor.
Go ahead, Member Taylor.
First off, thank you. I truly appreciate the presentation. I'm just wondering if you can elaborate a little bit on why the decision, or what the background in the decision was to virtual graduation as opposed to postponing it, as was asked by one of the parents earlier. And I also have that question, is what the background is to that decision.
Yeah, Member Taylor, the conversation was that if something could happen later, that's not out of the question. It doesn't have to be one or the other. So it's possible that schools will be able to have some sort of an activity that honors and celebrates seniors later. But we know that seniors go a million different directions. After having been a high school principal, sometimes they don't come back for a very long time. So we didn't want to miss this opportunity to honor and celebrate this way now and still keep an eye for the future. So that door isn't closed. We just don't know what it would look like. We've had lots of ideas that involve staff working in the summer. And again, the staff has been working and learning really hard right now. We couldn't put requirements on our staff during the summertime like that. So just trying to figure out what that would look like has been challenging. So rather than focusing on a lot of variables that we couldn't control or questions we couldn't get answers to, we thought we would do what many, many colleges and high schools across the country are doing, which is honor and celebrate our kids this way. And then if another situation presented, we would consider that as well.
Thank you very much. That helps a lot. Appreciate it.
President Berge?
Go ahead.
Ryan Ponder. Yes, this is Ryan Ponder. Ms. Fargo, thank you very much for the presentation. I did have a question in regards to the devices that have gone out and that are now with the kids. It's my understanding, and it may be incorrect or inaccurate, but at schools, there's filtration systems on that wonderful World Wide Web that kids can have access to. Do the devices that have left the schools, do they have filtration systems on them so that there's limited access to certain corners that are maybe a little bit darker than others on the World Wide Web? And if not, are there certain things that maybe the school district could recommend for parents to, gain access to in their homes to make sure that kids are as protected in school as they are in their homes using the devices as they are in school?
I have my guess there. Member Ponder, I know that all the Google Suite information has the filtering on it, but it is not the same out of school. And Mike Brown is here, our IT executive director, and he has more expertise in this area than I do, and I would like to defer to him.
Great, thank you.
Through the chair to Member Ponder, this is Mike Brown. We do have some basic filtering that comes with the Chromebook. So in the Chrome Management Suite, we do have some basic filtering that's set up in place. It is not as robust as the system when the device is within the district's network. We are currently exploring cloud filtering options. We actually met with 2 companies today virtually and went through 2 demonstrations. We have one more company we're going to look at. We're going to evaluate that and then consider the cost associated with that. But we want to do that holistically and look at it as for a comprehensive solution, because there's the potential to weave in other modules, if you will, for how we do classroom management and monitoring, and kind of have a solution that does all of that instead of having a bunch of third-party apps pieced together. So we are exploring that. There are potentially some fairly significant costs associated with the cloud filtering. But one of the things we want to also look at is it could provide some opportunity to provide parents insight into what their kids are doing from home. So we're kind of vetting that right now, if that answers your question. And then we know we only have a short window remaining here, at least for this school year. So we're kind of posturing ourselves for something that may carry into the next school year and potentially a long-term solution beyond that.
Yeah, that definitely helps and answers the question. I think it would be advantageous so as to ensure parents don't naively think that, oh, that's a Chromebook that comes from school. Surely my kids won't jump on or be exposed to certain things because it's protected. That as you look at those things, maybe something could be posted out there, and just letting parents know that there's avenues that or safeguards that they would need to take in their home, in addition, just to add that extra security layer to what little exists now. Thank you, though. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Ponder. I can think right now of a few different key places we could put that message, and that's good advice.
Yes, Dr. Welton.
That your discussion of all the things going on for our seniors. I haven't heard much about scholarships, and I just wondered if I haven't received any. And I usually am reviewing scholarships at this time from a number of different organizations, and I think they've all gone by the wayside. And I just wondered if counselors are busy helping students get them, or whether the window is closed on that.
I appreciate that. I actually had the same question myself, and I asked our district registrar who manages the site to see if the scholarship applications were coming in the same as they have other times, and she says yes, that they're there. And then I talked to some of my high school counseling friends, and they are working on writing recommendations and those kinds of things for these scholarships. And so I do think that they're going on. I know that there's been some extended deadlines, just like we've seen for a lot of things, that the disruption has caused people who can't pull together to review things to extend deadlines. But they are still happening, and we're very grateful to our community partners, especially who are supporting our high school seniors. There is a bright future. We just got to keep focusing on that.
I just want to make a comment. The kindergarten teacher, Kadruta Morgan, was one of my students at Matsu College, and she was a very hard worker, and I have just loved to go into her classroom to see her work and know how wonderful she is, and I appreciated watching her today. Thank you.
Any further questions from online? Hearing none. Thank you, Ms. Spargo. We will move on to Superintendent Update and Student Advisory Board Representative Report. Ms. Jensen, are you online with us tonight?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Ms. Jensen, do you have a report for us?
Yes, I do.
There you go. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the Student Advisory Board Executive Board met on April 2nd. We sent out a survey, and we kind of got a good idea of what students are planning to run for positions. Right now, most of our e-board positions do have a person that is running for them. So we are going to try to do a Student Advisory Board Zoom call, see if that's possible. It'll be about 50 people, so not quite sure yet. But if that is possible, then we will change over our board at that Zoom call, and then we will continue with the rest of the elections in the fall. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Dr. Goyette.
Good evening. So I wanted to give a brief update just for folks that may not be tracking what's happening within the state and within the borough regarding COVID cases. This is some screenshots. My next few slides are screenshots from the Alaska Department of Health and Social Services Data Hub page. And this is one of the pages that I check every single morning. And as of 11 a.m. this morning, we were still holding at 5 total cases, 4 in Palmer and 1 in Wasilla. And so this screenshot shows, this is one of my favorite graphs that they have on there. And one of the things that we're really trying to do is slow that spread down so that we don't overwhelm our medical infrastructure. And Matsu is yellow, so you can see between March 16th and 18th, there were 3 days in a row where we had a total of 4 cases, and then we did not have a case again until April 7th. And so I hope that this is an indicator that our social distancing practices, that the borough got in front of this, that our community responded very quickly, and that this is a sign that this practice is working. And I believe statewide that they feel like the social distancing mandates, school closures are contributing to help with that. One of the questions we hear a lot about is the amount of testing, if we're doing enough testing, and if we're doing enough testing here in the Matsu. And so on the Data Hub, you can see how testing has really ramped up. And so we're almost at 8,000 cumulative tests that have done. And remember, testing results can lag as much as a week. And so we will continue, as testing ramps up, we'll continue to identify more cases. One thing that is an indicator beyond testing is also the drain on the medical system. And currently, our local hospital is reporting that they have had decreased use in the ER. A typical day for the ER at Matsu Regional is 88 to 95 patients, and the current volume is down 52 to 53 people, and not individuals with COVID symptoms. So I hope that that is another good indicator that what we're doing is working here in the Matsu. Amy Spargo mentioned our expanded helplines. 761 Help has always been our help desk line, but predominantly people called for IT resources. Now you can access a school nurse or a school counselor 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Many of our students and families are going directly through their individual school counselors, and especially at the secondary level. But a lot of our elementary schools do not have counselors, so this is a very excellent added service. We really appreciate the school nurses and the school counselors taking this additional work on, and I think you heard that theme all throughout testimony and through what Amy Spargo was talking about. Our staff are not working less, they're working more than ever before, and we're so grateful to them. Meal distribution continues to grow. We're just under 60,000 meals in 19 days of service. And you can see that our site distribution is the blue line, and our home delivery is the gray line, and then our bus routes are the orange line. So we continue, we propped up our distribution sites very quickly and just maintained that volume, and then we were able to fill in with home delivery and bus deliveries. One of the advantages as well with home and bus delivery is that if students need instructional materials, we're able to deliver those as well. I want to do a brief update on the budget. Yesterday, the governor announced vetoes. That included $30 million in one-time monies that the legislature had built in and school bond debt. So I want to assure the board and our community we did not build in those one-time monies, so this is not a reduction to our school district, and school bond debt is something that was covered by the borough. However, the governor addressed, and I want to just reiterate, the Congress passed the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. You'll hear its acronym as the CARES Act. and there's $1.2 billion that will be coming to Alaska for that. And I really want to thank Senator Murkowski and Senator Sullivan. Initially, this was it was a $2 trillion stimulus bill, and Alaska was just going to receive in the lower millions. It was based on per population. They acted very quickly and were able to secure $1.2 billion. So that will backfill school bond debt, and there's also funds that are directly dedicated for education stabilization fund. So the $30 million in one-time money would have been $3.9 million for our district. So I think at a very minimum that will be added revenue, and more than likely will have increased above that $3.9 million. Amy Spargo touched again on graduations, but I do want to just highlight a few things. And one of the questions around why we made the decision when we did instead of postponing is that we have 14 high schools, and graduation is a very labor-intensive project. And even a virtual ceremony is very labor-intensive. We'll be setting up 2 studios where they will be recording all week long in both of those studios. This work is being led by Brian Mead and John Notestein. They're just fabulous teachers in our school district. And so we had to make a decision so that we could put out a quality virtual ceremony. But again, we are open to what the future holds and being able to celebrate this. Everything that we do for 13 years for students ends in graduation, and it is such a loss for everyone to not be able to have those face-to-face ceremonies. One of the things that we're hoping is that board members will send out invitations, and by district for the high schools in your district, we are hoping that you can come into the studio and pre-record certification of the class of 2020. And we're hoping we have the middle college that is does not have a designated draw, and we're hoping that Member Larson would be willing to come and pre-record for that. And we think that will be special. You'll be able to celebrate the schools in your regions, and students will be able to see that. Finally, I like to always end on a positive, and so I want to celebrate one of our district teachers, Steve Young. He's at Colony Middle School. He's a language arts teacher, and he had assigned gratitude essays to his students and asked them to write an essay, a 5-paragraph essay, for those that were really on the forefront of the pandemic. Students could choose grocery store workers, healthcare professionals, and seniors. And we had the lead nurse clinical case manager from Providence wrote and thanked the class so much for their essay and quoted one of the students. And the student wrote, "So I wanted to take a moment to thank you for all that you have done, for being everyday heroes and caring for those that can't care for themselves. I enjoy reading the stories about how you triumph over the setbacks and push-throughs to do the best that you can do. Just know that it is being seen every day by kids like me, and that we are proud for all that you do." And I think this is taking an opportunity that's happening in our everyday lives and applying that into the classroom, into language arts, into our reading and writing is exactly the work that we want our kids to be doing. So thank you, Steve Young, and your students, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from those online? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Goyette. Moving on to item 6, the consent agenda. Can I hear a motion and a second for the minutes of April 1?
I move the consent agenda, the minutes of April 1, 2020.
Is there a second online? Okay, guys, online, is there a second for the minutes for April 1? Is something wrong?
Hopefully you got that. Ryan Ponder, seconding for the second time.
Well, that was the first time heard. Okay, is there any objection? Hearing none, the minutes for April 1, 2020 are approved. Right now, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and we'll be back here at 7:20. Okay, we're gonna get back into session here. Madam Secretary, would you do a roll call, please?
Mr. Hart.
Here.
Mr. Larson.
Here.
Mr. Ponder.
Here.
Mr. Trimmer.
Here.
Mr. Taylor.
Here.
We're all back.
Okay, we are going to move on to item 7, action items. A, the contract award to Sheet Metal Inc. bid number B20-02, Trapper Creek Elementary School Direct Digital Controls Upgrade. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
I move to approve contract award to Sheet Metal Inc. bid number B20-02, Trapper Creek Elementary School Direct Digital Controls Upgrade.
Second that.
Who seconded that?
Mr. Larson, second.
Thank you. Do we have an admin report?
An admin report was provided last time. We have no additional information, but we are available to answer questions.
Okay, at this time, is there anybody from the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, okay, move on to board discussion. Is there any discussion online? Hearing none, it is time to vote, and we will vote vote by voice, starting with Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Dr. Welton?
Yes.
I myself vote yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Trimmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ponder?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
That item passes unanimously. The contract award to Sheet Metal Inc. bid number B20-02, Trapper Creek Elementary School Direct Digital Controls Upgrade. Moving on to item B, the 6-year Capital Improvement Program CIP list. Is there a motion and a second?
I move item B, 6-year Capital Improvement Program CIP list.
Member Taylor, I second it.
Member Taylor. Dr. Goyette, is there an admin report?
An admin report was provided previously. We are available to answer questions.
Okay, at this time, we will entertain public comment. Mr. Haberman, are you online?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Mr. Haberman, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for the work you're doing. My name is Eugene Carl Haberman. I live in the Matthew Valley. I follow the public process. When the public process is done appropriately, decision made by the governing body is more likely in the public interest. I'd like to read a couple of words here that's on your website regarding this item. The moderate scenario assumes that the state will continue to fund past bond debt insurances at the 70% reimbursable rate, while all future debt insurances will be funded locally, no state reimbursement, and so forth. Everything changes. You know that. We all know that. It's going every day. Even just before speaking here, a few minutes earlier, the superintendent addressed the issue about state and funding and so forth. And, the fact is, you're going to approve a 6-year capital improvement program at this time with the shaky economy, the shaky situation. Let's get real with the situation, to be honest. How can we improve this at this time with this scenario? Would it be better to put this off for a few months? We'll have more idea of where we're going as a state, what the needs are in the state, where we need to go. With proving such a thing as a 6-year at this time is not the right thing to do at this point, because we do not know what the next day will bring us with this ongoing world health emergency. So I would encourage you not to pass this thing right now, because tomorrow we're going to find what? Something else has changed financially. That more likely means the state's more financially less secure, less credit-worthy. So I would say delay this action, not just for the next meeting, but a few meetings down before we get an idea of where we're going as a state as a country. And that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Is there any board discussion at this time? Dr. Welton?
But just remind me, we do this every year. It has to be done as part of protocols for the state. Am I correct?
That's correct. And
And-
so we have not received revenue through this process, but in the event that revenue were available, we want to make sure that we've dotted all our I's and crossed all our T's.
And this is a priority based on the needs of the district, not on what things cost or anything like that. It's just on the needs of the district, correct?
It's a pretty complex matrix of evaluating them based on safety, based on the life of each of the items, and so each year they go through that comprehensive process.
One more comment. So this particular list is just something that we keep doing year after year, whether we receive money or not, because it's required if there were to be money. I appreciate that. Thank you.
That's correct.
Any comments online? Okay, hearing none, it is time for a voice vote. Dr. Welton?
Yes.
I myself vote yes. Mr. Larson?
Yes.
Mr. Trimmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ponder?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
And the 6-year capital improvement program CIP list passes unanimously. Moving on to item 8, non-action items. The Houston High School retrofit schematic plan, the 35% design approval. Do we have an admin report?
Yes, Executive Director Mike Brown is going to give the admin report.
Good evening, board members, President Berge, Dr. Goyette, Mike Brown, Executive Director of Operations. We're going to do something a little bit different tonight with regards to this report. We are going to play the video that we made as the admin report that was really done in consideration of the board members that are here telephonically, so that you get the benefit of the video and the illustrations that accompany that, so you're not just hearing the audio on that. So we'll play that, and then Jeff Walden, who's the Matsu Borough Project Manager for this project, Amy Mestis, who's the structural engineer from PDC Engineers, and Eric Spangler from BDS Architects will be available. Amy and Eric are available telephonically. Jeff's here in person, and we will be prepared to answer any questions or elaborate on any thing that you require clarification on. So with that said, I'm going to begin the video, step back, and we'll be back with you in about 14 minutes. Hi, I'm Mike Brown, the Executive Director of Operations for the Matsu Borough School District. This video is part of our 35% design presentation to the school board for the Houston High School retrofit project. So we're providing this video to you as the administrative report for this non-action item on April 1st, with the intent of that the school board would approve it on April 8th. So just to quickly recap how we arrived at this presentation today, we'll go back to when the Matsu Borough Assembly awarded the design contract to BDS Architects on January 21st. Following that, the design team continued to work to pull together a community task force. A community task force was basically comprised of members from the student body, staff, school administration, business leaders, community members, and parents to basically inform the design process. That group met on January 28th and again on March 5th. Subsequently, the design team also met with school administration and school staff on January 29th and 30th, and then they met with them again on March 4th and 5th to collect input on what we call space programming. That all led us up to a virtual meeting that we held with the public just last week, actually, around March 19th, March 20th. We had originally templated a public meeting for community input on the project on March 19th, but due to COVID-19, we elected to go with a virtual public meeting providing a video to the community along with a survey link for them to provide that feedback to us. So I will kind of summarize for you some of those responses that we received and kind of the patterns that we saw in terms of things that the community liked or the things that the community expected to see and maybe they didn't see in the conceptual drawings. So I'll begin with what the community liked. We did see a few patterns there. The top 3 items that were mentioned over and over by community members were they really like the Career and Technical Education, or CTE, spaces. So what they saw in the conceptual drawing, they really like seeing more of an emphasis and a focus on the CTE spaces. They liked the general layout, the flow of the building, and the flexibility of the spaces. And then the other one of the top 3 items that continued to come up was safety. So where they recognized the improvements that were being made into the facility, particularly in the administration and gymnasium wings, as well as the fact that the academic wing would be built to current code. They also made mention of the common space and liked that it was more open and inviting. They also mentioned the library and its placement being on the first floor as opposed to the second floor. They like that, as well as the culinary program and having a larger music space. And then lastly, the other theme that we saw in terms of what folks liked was the importance of staying on the timeline that's been previously communicated, which is to open the school for the 2021-2022 school year. Finally, on the items that folks expected to see, there weren't really any clear patterns, but what we did see most commonly mentioned was the need to accommodate future growth and expansion for the community as that grows out, having the ability to expand the high school. We will discuss that later on in the report tonight. And then also the need for storage came up a few different times. All of these comments have been provided for the design team to consider, as well as follow up with a couple of community members that had specifically asked for a follow-up. So tonight, you're gonna hear from Amy Mestis, who is our structural engineer from PDC Engineer. She's gonna talk to you specifically about the repairs that are required in the administration and gymnasium wings. And then Eric Spangler from BDS Architects will talk to you about what the spaces look like really throughout the entire building, but with an emphasis on the new academic wing. Our next gate following the school board's approval on April 8th would be to meet with the community task force again for a 65% design review, and then coming back to the board for a 95% design review in the June timeframe. And then finally, that will lead us to preparing those bid documents, going out to bid, and a construction contract award by the assembly in the October timeframe. Once this video is complete, staff will be available for questions, and we will provide you updates since the filming of this recording today. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Mestis. I'm the structural engineer of record working on the Houston High School project. I'm with PDC Engineers. We're working with BDS Architecture on the retrofits for Houston High School. So we'll go ahead. So how we looked at this, we started this project kind of looking at the ground up. So we got reports from other engineers before we started working on the project. And we had geotechnical information to address the ground underneath the project. So with that, we went and looked at the building, and we were able to look that the foundation was in pretty good shape, and the geotechnical report shows that the ground is pretty sound in the area. So we're able to start with the foundations look like they're in good shape. Okay. From there, we started to look at both the gym, this is the gym, and the admin wings. So as we're walking through here, we noticed some damage, some areas that can be fixed. But the interesting thing about walking through here is I'm envisioning my own kids being in this space. So I have a kindergartner and a 4th grader, and I have to send them to school. So it's really important to us at PDC that we are keeping in mind that this is a place for children. This is a place where we want them to feel safe. And when I'm at work, I want my kids to be safe at school. So we keep that as a lens for everything that we do when we're looking at structural safety of this building. So with that, and looking at the entire building as we walked through, what we've come to find is that the gym looks like it's in pretty good shape. What we need to do in order to bring it up to a reasonable seismic standard is to replace the roof. So this entire shaded area is taking off what is a wood deck right now, plywood and wood joists. And we're going to pull that off and we're going to replace it with a metal deck. We're also going to take off the tops of the walls and make it a good connection so that that'll be a nice safe space and take forces all the way down into the foundation. You can see here in the gym that we've got this red dashed line, kind of extends around here. If you've been in the school, this is a really tall masonry wall that's not attached to the ceiling. So it has some damage. In fact, if you want to go back to the slide before this, you can see here, this is that wall. Okay, so you can see a lot of damage, and you can go back to the plan now. However, that damage it's really, it's not to the actual structure. It's not restraining anything from the earthquake, but you don't want those blocks to fall on your head. So we're going to take that wall out, okay, that wall out and replace it with something that will be attached to the roof structure, attached to the ground, and that way we'll be able to have a safe wall that won't fall on anybody. So that's kind of the gym. It's pretty straightforward replacement. Then we get into the admin wing here. It's a little more complicated. So in this area, we've got a steel deck for the roof in this area. So that's going to stay. But then to either side of it, we're going to take off what is a roof deck that slopes and put back a metal deck and do kind of the same thing we're planning to do with the gym here. We have a lot of those tall walls that aren't restrained to the structure here, and those are the red lines that we're going to remove. And there's a few more in there that you see. And with that, we are going to have to replace some of the shear walls, which is what's keeping the building safe during an earthquake. So that's these dashed lines in here. So what we'll do is we'll take out portions of those walls and we'll replace them with either concrete or fully reinforced CMU blocks is what they're called. And then we're going to have to put some new foundation in. The reason we need some new foundation elements, that's this hatch mark, is because there isn't any steel reinforcement in the current foundations. And while that might have worked when there wasn't any damage, and you have this big long area of wall here to keep the building from wanting to tip over, now that we've got some damaged areas of wall and we're going to be opening up some of this space, we need to get foundations that have more rebar and can keep the building safe in a future earthquake. Those are kind of the big picture things that we're doing in order to upgrade the building. Again, this is the gym, if you're looking at it at home, and this is the administration wing. And I point that out again because when we move on to the architectural plan, it's going to flip on you. So just be ready for that to be turned on its side.
Hi, I'm Eric Spangler with BDS Architects. We're leading the design effort for the renovation of Houston Middle School. Amy just talked about the gymnasium administration wing, and her orientation was turned. We're going to talk about the gymnasium, the administration wing, and the new classroom wing replacement. The classroom wing sustained a lot of damage, and we're replacing it with current code upgrades. So I'm going to start at the gym. The gym originally didn't have an elevator. It needs an elevator for ADA access to the second floor, so kids could use the upstairs area, which we'll see in a little bit, but also there's a running track here. We added a team locker room for that was a request by the administration. Let me back up a little bit. So we've gone through 2 planning sessions, and this is where we're at to date. So a lot of work went into getting into this place. We met with different departments, different teachers, and everyone had a little bit of input. And then we also bounced this off the community with their input. So then we go back to starting at the top here. So the cafe is in the main entrance. It's going to be actually a focal point of the school. The latest version is actually going to make that cafe a little bit bigger and move the officer over here. But what I wanted to point out is that the gym can be operated separately, or you can open it up to add the cafe, or you can open it up to add the cafeteria, or you can close the cafeteria off from the gym. So anyway, you have a versatility for after hours of how to use the space. Music room got a little bit bigger. You might have noticed in Amy's slide, a couple walls came out. Stage stayed the same, cafeteria stayed the same. But what we did was we opened up the cafeteria to a commons area. And this is going to be a space where students can meet after school, before school. Maybe class wants to hold a special little session there. but it also flows into the library. So there's a bit of transparency. So in our long winter days, we get some light all the way into the cafeteria. The administration wing added a secure vestibule that you would actually have to enter through the reception area to get to the rest of the school when the doors are locked during the day. A lot of the administration stayed pretty much the same. There's some tweaks here and there. We want to make the vault room a little bit bigger. The officer's going to be in there somewhere. We've got a nurse's suite, much like you have now, where kids can come in off the corridor, be in their little suite as they're waiting for treatment. We've got the life skills, OT, and speech therapy all located on this end, so that population has their own entrance from the school bus. Behavioral's over here on the end as well. We've got stacked science rooms for preparation in the middle. We've got clusters of 3 classrooms. You'll see more upstairs. A staff room with a toilet, restrooms, stairs here, here, and here. And then as part of the CTE program, we've got a culinary program on this floor, which is going to have some walk-in refrigerators along the top, a woods construction room, and a separate room for welding to keep that activity separate. Both of these rooms have access to a yard, an enclosed yard. We're actually thinking about adding another door here because we want shared space here for collaboration for the CTE room. This is a dedicated classroom for the woods and welding so they can do their safety meetings, their clean work, all of those things that they would need to do in a classroom. So next slide. So once again, we're showing the access of the elevator to the track above in the mat room. This is roof here, so we're on the 2nd floor of the administration wing. We've got clusters of classrooms again, graphics class. But one of the features is there'll be an upper commons that will look down onto the lower commons. This will have seating, upper chairs, plenty of places to plug in and recharge your phones, those kinds of things. Cluster classrooms, some CTE suggested programs, some medical, business, science rooms, resource rooms, and the other feature is that you'll be able to look down into the shared space from both floors and see what's going on.
All right, if I may, Mike Brown again. So if I could get a real quick roll call with Eric and Amy. Are you both online before we start to take questions?
This is Eric.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Okay, got both of you. We'll get started then. I just wanted to set the record straight. I messed the dates up. I misspoke in the video. I guess I wanted to accelerate the project timeline or something, but the non-action item is obviously tonight, April 8th, and then the board would vote on this for action for the 35% next board meeting on April 15th. So to clarify that. Also, one other thing that transpired since the recording of the video is the drawings that were posted to board docs since last week are dated April 2nd. So that's the current set. What you saw in the video with Eric and Amy was actually Eric's portion of it were, I think, dated a few days before that. So the major changes between what was presented in the recording and the documents posted to board doc that are dated April 2nd, where we enlarged the cafe space at the entry to the school. We increased the size of the music space and accommodated that with some additional storage for ensemble. And also, it depicts the future expansion and where that would occur in the future. So that's where, if we had a future expansion, that's depicted on the April 2nd drawings and shows where that would be in the future. That will not be constructed with this project at this time, but that's what it would look like moving forward. That was a specific request of the community, so we wanted to make sure we honored that and showed them where that would be and that it has been provisioned for from an engineering perspective. And then lastly, there were 2 items that came in on the survey that the community expected to see. I just wanted to at least acknowledge those. We did see a couple of requests for a pool. The district doesn't have any pools. Those are recreational facilities, but I at least wanted to acknowledge that request from the community, as well as an extra gym or a practice gym at Houston High School. And frankly, we just don't have the budget for that type of work. And when I consider that the scope of this project largely is a retrofit, I mean, we are accommodating obviously the CTE focus, and it will be a high school, but we do have a budget that we have to stay within. So I just wanted to make sure that got on the record and acknowledge those responses that came in from the community, because I think they're valid. It's just, I don't think it's something that's reasonable given the scope and the budget for this project. So with that said, we're happy to take any questions from the board at this time.
At this time, we'll take some public comment here. Mr. Haberman, are you online?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Haberman.
Okay. Where do I begin? Let me just say this, and I plead with the board members. This is a non-action item tonight. You've been meeting for the last several weeks, every week, once a week instead of every 2 weeks. Please don't decide on this issue or any non-action item for next week that was a non-action item tonight. You need some time, and you need the fair chance for the public to speak. Also, what's here, you got an IT nightmare going on. And footnote to what I'm saying is, while I'm on phone with you right now, I listened to the meeting, except when it went over to your presentation of this item, you could not hear anything on the phone. It was zero, went silent. And then, by the way, as I'm speaking right now, I can hear in the background there's a substantial delay, and just happened. That's how much delay from the time I start and now. That's how much delay is going on between the internet and my phone call right now. That's a sizable delay. So I'm rotating back and forth and seeing, but the end result is this has been a nightmare. It's a lot better than what was at the Pro Summer meeting last night. You have a good IT there, but you got a nightmare going on here on these issues. And so please don't put this as an action item next week. You meet every week, but the past was every other week. And now we got a world health emergency, and we shouldn't push this stuff. And we got a nightmare on IT, with all due respect. You haven't fixed all these issues, and that's what's going on. So I'll leave you with that, with respect, and appreciate everything you're trying to do. But I also encourage you to, is one last thing to this whole thing. You call the phone numbers instead of us holding on. That way we are connected to you. Call us. Parties give you the phone number and you call us. That will ensure you don't get disconnected by somebody. And thank you very much for everything you're trying to do in this time.
Okay, is there any board discussion at this time?
President Berge, Member Hart.
Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
Question for the architect. The new design. One of the issues that was brought up by one of the maintenance people I had the privilege of talking to said that on some of these constructions, you end up with like windows, for instance, that are oddly shaped, that are difficult to repair, expensive to fix or repair. Have you guys in this reconstruction? Have you guys gone to the direction of making it more maintenance friendly than the previous structure?
Yes, this is Eric, the architect. We're not planning on any odd-shaped windows. We're pretty standard rectangles. The school district actually has guidelines, and the borough has guidelines about, using pretty regular windows. So we did get called out because one of our illustrations showed all the glazing going to the floor. We were advised not to do that unless it was covered. So we're looking at that and readjusting that.
Okay, thanks. I didn't intend for my question to just stick to the windows. I mean, I was any other items. Just want to make sure that maintenance was consulted or has been in on the discussions here.
Yes, they have. They've seen the 35% and already made comments.
President Berge, this is Member Taylor.
Go ahead, Mr. Taylor.
I just would like to know on the remodel part of that. Are we replacing all of the mechanical features and HVAC and everything like that? Is all that being replaced, or are we using some of the old stuff?
We are replacing as much as possible. I'm not the mechanical engineer, but as far as I know, nothing is being reused. It's all being redone with the fan room on the second story above the boiler rooms on the first story.
Thank you.
Is there any other further board discussion? Hearing none, we will go ahead and move on to item B. Thank you. Debt Service Resolution 20-013. Is there an admin report?
Yes, this is an annual transfer that we have to do. It is the annual payment for Fronteras to the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
Public comment at this time. Mr. Haberman, are you still with us?
I'm here.
You have 3 minutes on the subject.
I'll be extremely brief. You can take what I said earlier on my comments and apply it to this situation. And a footnote to that whole comment I'm saying on the process for being able to follow this. While I'm on the phone with you on this item, I can hear you. But when you do your presentations, like what happened before, or when by the way, when I'm speaking right now, somewhere on the internet, it goes down to almost zero. You can barely hear. There's like a switch going on your end that if someone's listening on the internet, they couldn't hear, but if they're here on the phone, they could hear. That's what's going on. It's really bizarre. But I'm fortunately have both ends going at the same time, watching what's going on, along with that delay. So I add to that point is you need to put off not doing action item in next week's meeting and go on a delay on that. At least another week on this thing. And that's it. And thank you very much. And I wish you all the best.
Is there any board discussion on this item at this time?
President Berge, this is Ryan Ponder.
Go ahead, Mr. Ponder.
Just a quick question. That amount of the $393,000 is available to be transferred from Fronteras general fund site to where exactly?
Yes, Member Ponder, this is Luke Volp. It'll be transferred to the debt service fund, and then funds will be made available to the borough so that they can make payment on the loan.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item?
Amy Mestis has left.
Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to item C, High School English Elective Curriculum and Reading List, Part 1. Is there an admin report?
Yes, it's my pleasure to invite Assistant Superintendent Amy Spargo to the podium again to deliver this admin report.
Good evening again, President Berge, Dr. Goyette, members of the board online. Thank you for joining us. I am going to kind of walk us through the process of how we review curriculum and update curriculum and add materials to that list. We're gonna look at how these courses are offered in the MATSU, how many students are taking them right now. We're going to look at some of the feedback that we got from the community and other stakeholders, teachers, and the Curriculum Council. And then I'm going to give you a snapshot of the novel lists included. There is a comprehensive attachment to this item. It has gone out in the Board Connect, but it's also available for the public, that outlines every enduring understanding, the vocabulary, the materials, the questions, the assessments. And so that document is also available. In the Mat-Su Borough, we have a more rigorous expectation for English than the state. We require 4 English credits. English 1 and 2 are required, and the junior and senior level English are considered English electives. Before the school board tonight are 5 of the 10 English electives where curriculum and materials are being approved. Many years ago, before my time, these courses were brought before the board for course approval, and the course approval included a course outline and objectives, but it did not include materials. So these curriculum, course outlines, and objectives have been updated and aligned to a materials list that's coming before you today. We're looking at English 3, American Literature, English 4, British Literature. These are both year-long courses. In Apex, they're considered American Literature and British Literature. In the Mat-Su Borough, our Englishes are English 1, 2, 3, and 4. Poetry, creative writing, and journalism are all semester-long English electives. So when we think about the process, curriculum is really the what students learn. So we had people looking at objectives, content, experiences, and evaluations. And then we're adding the materials, the textbooks, novels, and short stories to that. They are separate of each other, but overlap in that you use the materials to accomplish the curriculum. The process is similar for each curriculum that we work through. We bring writing teams together. We rely on the expertise of our teachers. And our in this situation, we had teachers from all of our high schools work on these, and we had teachers who have taught these courses before work. And then we also involved a content area expert, Emily Forstner, who reviewed the work of each curriculum team and helped us ensure that there was cohesion and alignment to standards. The teams worked together to revise the framework to make sure that the objectives were able to be accomplished in the timeline that was available, that there was a way to evaluate the objectives, and that there was meaning and relevance to what was being learned. Then after the writing teams get done, we push it out to all the English teachers in the district. We pushed it out to the community. We sent it out in emails with links to upcoming 9th and 10th grade families and 11th grade families whose students will be taking these courses in the years to come. Then the curriculum council reviews all that feedback, makes adjustments, makes recommendations. Sometimes it cycles back from there, and in light of the stakeholder review, there are adjustments made. In this situation, almost all of the classes had adjustments made based on the stakeholder review. And then it comes to you for board approval. The writing teams met 3 times as a group, twice in the development phase and then a revision phase. They were represented by 5 high schools, and we had 12 English teachers, 2 librarians, and 1 ELA teacher. And I like that. I think this is important to highlight that standards are kind of out there. They're the state written guidance. But when we talk about curriculum is written by teachers for students that they teach locally. And so curriculum is a much more localized process. And we rely on our local content area experts, and we rely on our local families to give us feedback on that. Then it comes to the board. Board policy 6143 specifies that the administrators develop, maintain, and improve the curriculum, but that the board approves the curriculum. So currently, right now, we have all 5 of these courses are being taught. English 3 is the most popular. There are 780 students in it this year. 140 in English 4, 244 in poetry, 272 in creative writing, and 58 in journalism. When we pushed this out, we already had 15 teachers involved in the process. 11 more teachers on top of the 15 who were involved weighed in with feedback. We had the community, 76 community members weighed in, and 18 curriculum council members weighed in. The predominant feedback from the teachers was, and over half of them said this, that they wanted more extensive reading lists and greater degree of choice of books and stories. And you'll notice that the materials on the list, they're not super long, and that's because the vetting of all of those books was comprehensive, and it was there was a lot of dialogue about them, and so we are working on a way to add books to the list that would come before the board for approval more frequently than every 6 years if teachers have books that they would like to teach that aren't on this list. But these were the books that there was general consensus on as a good place to start. Other feedback was that the English 3 books, they wanted more diversity in novel authors. A lot of our authors, when we looked, were just a lot of men. There weren't women authors, and there wasn't much minority representation of the authors. So we went back and added some novels for diversity. In journalism, the feedback was that they wanted changes. The Curriculum Council wanted additional changes to add bias objectives and online media sources, and the ability to evaluate online media sources in addition to print. How the reading list came about was the writing teams looked at reading lists from across the country. They looked at school districts on the East Coast, in the Midwest, on the West Coast. They looked at AP lists, they looked at IB list, as well as involved all the teachers in the books they have been teaching currently in these classes. The texts that are on the list today reflect a general consensus of texts students would be reading in public schools in America that represent the most common adoptions as well as the local expertise of our teachers. This is a snapshot of some of the reading lists for each of these classes. And it looks like when I send PowerPoints in that there's some formatting issues as it's coming from my house to here, which doesn't happen when I send it from school. I apologize for that. The comprehensive lists are in the attachments, and that is my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, we don't have anybody signed up for public comment, so moving on into board discussion. Do we have board discussion at this time?
President Berge, this is Ryan Ponder.
Go ahead, Mr. Ponder.
I have a few questions in regards to some of the materials in the comprehensive list. Under high school poetry, there are authors that are listed that are recommended by both the College Board and the International Baccalaureate recommendations. How many college credits are going to be received from those poetry classes, or the class in which those authors will be read?
That's a great question. Poetry currently is not a dual enrolled course. It is just a high school course, and it doesn't have an AP assessment that's aligned to it. So that is not a for college class, yes, it's not for college credit.
Okay. And so why were there recommendations of authors that are recommended by the college level?
The standards for looking at the reading list was that they wanted to have to develop a deeper appreciation for the merits of the canon of literature to better understand ourselves and our common ground. And so lists that are read in colleges were just a way to look at who are the enduring authors in poetry over time.
Okay. And I mean, my concern is just based off the fact that, I mean, poetry can get pretty deep. And if we're looking at things that were recommended for, college age students, I don't know how appropriate those things would be for our ninth graders. That's kind of the crux of the question there. The other thing that I had noticed in regards to, it was in journalism, which I can understand, but then under, which one was it here? High school creative writing. It seems as though our writing classes lean heavily upon the New York Times. New York Times, the Learning Network takes basically articles from the New York Times and has those put forth to be able to write and draft things from that. Is there a reason why the New York Times was utilized as a media source as opposed to something else that was maybe more fair and balanced?
I'm looking at the resources list. So PBS, the New York Times, the Frontiersman, Big Cabbage Radio, Anchorage Press, Anchorage Daily News, and School Journalism. So, no, I don't know why that particular newspaper was chosen, but I could certainly find that out. I do know that there was an emphasis on local journalism, and that was one of the changes that did happen when it went back through. I also want to highlight, Member Ponder, that I concur with your assessment that some of these poetry authors are pretty advanced, and these are not courses that are available for 9th and 10th graders unless they also are very advanced. They take English 1 and English 2 as required courses. These are upperclassmen courses.
Gotcha. And that was the New York Times reference was in journalism, but it's also on high school creative writing. I believe there wasn't page numbers on this, but page 3 under novels, mentors, texts, and teacher resources. A lot of those are small, different resources and usages. I just saw that the New York Times was utilized more than once in a resource under the comprehensive list here.
And I appreciate that. This is a first reading, and I certainly can take this back, and we can look at adding other newspaper resources, and I certainly would welcome input from the school board if they want to send me an email on that.
Very good. And then this is round 1 of the titles, but yet it's a non-action item. Is this list going to be brought back next board meeting to be voted on?
Yes, it's a non-action item this week, and then next week it'll be an action item, and then the week after that we have 5 more elective classes. That'll be a non-action item, but it just seemed to be too much to wade through 10 of them at once.
I see. Okay, very good. And I'll keep looking. I mean, I've done a little bit of research on these things, but I know how things work, and that is if there was something that was placed on this list that ended up being controversial or newly introduced into the classroom, and next year parents were to come and say something, then it would be, the board approved this list. And so I think taking the responsibility to look at these things and, while it's a non-action item today and it's supposed to be voted on next time, I'm going to keep looking at it. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
President Berge, this is Member Taylor.
Go ahead, Member Taylor.
Hi, Ms. Fargo. I noticed that the asterisk down at the bottom the whole reading list says novels may contain controversial content, and some of those are highlighted. That's fine. What do we do anything to assist parents in understanding what that controversial content might be, or do we need to, or is this asterisk enough to let that be known?
That is a great question, and we had a lot of discussion about that with these curriculum teams, and really the intention is that the book list, by having a book list in advance, you're doing parents a great favor in that they will know what reading material is coming before their child in advance. So number 1, that's an elective. So you might not choose to take that class. You might just take another one, or you can choose to ask for a substitute. And then we also have a corollary. We've done some research on what makes that book controversial, and there's that resource can be attached to this curriculum as well. Some of the what makes a book controversial, I'll give the example of Catch-22, is that there's racial slurs in it, and those are certainly triggers, but sometimes it's a way to learn how words are really powerful, and so there's a literary reason for some of those things, but we actually have researched all of those, and the teachers discuss them at length and feel like the controversy is part of the controversial issues are part of what makes them appropriate for upperclassmen, and to be able to analyze and think critically about what they read in regard to different perspectives.
Thank you.
Is there any further discussion at this time?
Yes.
President Berge.
Member Hart.
Go ahead, Mr. Hart.
Yeah, regarding the controversial issues, I mean, do we have a specific list of what controversial issues were found?
Yes?
Is it available? I'm sorry, I'm not seeing. I'm trying to scan through and not seeing anything of
I can get that to the board. The controversial issues books on this list are I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, The Great Gatsby, Invisible Man, Catch-22. The things they carried are the list that I have in front of me right now, and I can make sure that that's available in the next Board Connect.
Yeah, but to let folks know what specifically in each of them is the controversy. Yeah, because some parents are going to be, more sensitive about, cuss words than others, or some people will be more controversial. Cussing may not bother them, but some other issue might. So, I mean, if we have a list of specifically what the controversies were in each of those books, that to go along with that to hang publicly for the parents to see, I think that would be helpful, and also for the public.
Certainly.
So if it's okay with the board, we will do a follow-up Board Connect on this tomorrow, since this is an action item next Wednesday. And so we will send that out to the board, and that'll be available to the public so that they'll have a week to review that before next Wednesday.
Thanks. And that does lead to the next question. Why is this 1 week turnaround instead of a 2 week?
I had recommended that. We were looking at a total of 4 board meetings to bring forward 10 electives. And so what we wanted to do was bring them forward as non-action, then action, and then the following 2 meetings bring them forward as non-action and action. We can certainly push this off. We still have math curriculum that we would like to revisit with the board. We're in a holding pattern on purchasing materials. And so we hope to revisit the math curriculum in May. And we're just simply trying to spread out the amount of content that we're asking you to absorb so that you can make an informed decision.
We visit in May the math curriculum. That's not an issue. But when we're talking about, to the member of the public's point, we're fast tracking an awful lot of stuff, especially during an issue, during something of a crisis. But I mean, during a time where people may not have the attention span necessarily to think, oh yeah, let me go check what the school board's up to. So it's like we're just shuffling things through awfully fast now. We're having weekly board meetings instead of every 2 weeks, and we're expecting working parents to have time to breathe and review this, or even members of the public who aren't necessarily parents, to be able to review this. And so we're shuffling this stuff through awfully fast, and I'm asking, is there a reason this has to be a 1 week turnaround?
I defer to the board. If the board would like us to move all 3 non-action items to April 22nd, we can do that.
I think that would be wise.
I agree with that.
Go ahead, Dr. Welton.
My thoughts, to go back to why we are having weekly meetings, was so that we wouldn't have so much content in one night. And so it was being divided up so that we would have just a few action items instead of 10 or 15 in one night, which we were having, and we were going way late. And that was the understanding that I had as to why we were doing it this way. We also, this material was sent to us last Thursday, so we had this week to actually look at it, read through stuff, and if we had questions, we could have submitted them earlier. So those are some things that, it used to be in the old days, we got a packet on Monday and had the meeting on Wednesday, and we had to figure it all out between that time. Now we have a longer time, and we have that opportunity to ask questions in between, when we first get it. And maybe, I didn't get a chance to look at this until Sunday, but still I could have passed on any questions I had ahead of time. Thank you.
This is Mr. Larson. my understanding, the weekly meetings was to keep us updated on the virus, not anything to fast track anything or anything, or to cause the meetings not to be long, is so we could get a lot of information, which I do appreciate from our superintendent and staff, the tremendous amount of information that we get weekly, because the virus issue or the pandemic changes every day, and that's why we went to weekly meetings, not to change our format on every 2 weeks. Seeing an action, non-action item, and 2 weeks later voting on it. Thank you.
I want to thank Member Hart for his comments and let him know that I concur that 2 weeks would be nowhere near enough time for all the people to look at this and see over 40 novels that are represented here. And so we first pushed out these list of novels in January to our families, and we had 76 people give us feedback on these courses that are not district employees before it even comes to the board, because curriculum really is a local process, and it should represent the views of the local community, and I couldn't agree with you more on that. So we are mindful of that, and our process includes that really comprehensive stakeholder review before it even goes to Curriculum Council.
And thank you. I do appreciate that, and absolutely, stakeholder input is absolutely critical. But we also have the public, and the public at large, the grandparents, the people who don't have kids in school, they also have a role in this. And so we need to give them enough time, and that includes everything. It's not just this. I mean, there's anything that we have out there. Large contracts need time, for the public to have access to them, and so they have a chance to read through them. But when we go through, what we're doing now, because we've increased the meeting frequency to such a tight strobe that we're passing things that people are like, wait a minute, when did that come out? And so it's bad policy for the government to shove things through so rapidly, that people would be like drinking from a fire hose to try to keep up, especially on stuff that doesn't need it. If we have an emergency or something, then yeah, that warrants it, but stuff like this doesn't necessarily. So if we need to give the public a little bit of breathing space on these. I mean, especially if we're not in an emergency situation. But thank you. Yeah, stakeholder input, absolutely. Kudos. Thank you. That's exactly what should be happening.
Is there any more board discussion on this item? Hearing none, thank you, Ms. Spargo. Oh, excuse me. Who is that?
Mr. Larson.
Go ahead, Mr. Larson.
Are we going to put this off for 2 weeks? That's the question. Are we going to do our normal 2-week intervals? Or are we going to see this as an action item next week? That decision wasn't made.
So there is an item next week if the board is having executive session next Tuesday, and you're going to be looking at the superintendent search process and how was talk about some community forums, how that may change based on what's occurring. And so we do have that as an action item next week. That would be the only thing that the board would need to meet on. We would move these 3 non-action items to April 22nd.
Go ahead, Dr. Welton.
And so the items that would have been presented next week will be a couple weeks out from there also. So we would be bringing forward, I don't know that we would need a meeting on April 29th, so we would be bringing forward on May 6th. We'd be back to our every 2-week meetings. We'd bring forward the next 5 English electives on May 6th, and they would be voted on 2 weeks later.
If I can say, if we can present them, as long as they are from the time of presentation, there's a 2-week time lag to the time we vote on it, that's fine. I don't mind meeting every week. What I don't like is we meet this week and the next week we vote on it before the public has a chance to digest it.
No, I really appreciate the conversation, and we had a lot of conversations behind the scenes, trying to make sure that we were really pushing it out in a way that was reasonable. So if it's okay then with the board, then on the April 15th, we could bring forward as non-action the other 5 English electives. So then on the 22nd, you're voting, that's 2 weeks away. And then on the 29th, you could be voting again, or on May 6th, whichever meeting the board chooses. So there could be 2 weeks in between. You'll just have 5 course elective items separated.
And President Berge, this is Member Hart.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if we could discuss the agenda through email and try to make sure that it stays relatively reasonable. If they're going to put 5 items that we need to vote on and review, we need to make sure that other agenda items are light.
Noted, Mr. Hart.
President Berge, Ryan Ponder.
Go ahead, Mr. Ponder.
The other thought is if those or if those other lists are already completed, then they can still. I mean, I don't know of anything that would impede them from being uploaded to Board Connect now, discussed in another week, and then not voted on for another 2 weeks, providing enough time. Technology provides such things where packets aren't put in front of us, and we have the means to communicate those things if they're already completed and done now. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to item 9, persons to be heard on non-agenda items. Madam Secretary?
The same rules apply, and it's just the speaker states his or her name for the record. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes per meeting, and the speaker is limited to non-agenda items.
And the person to be heard tonight is Mr. Haberman. Are you online?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Eugene Carl Haberman. One, I'd like to say I'm encouraged with the comments about the way the agenda is set up and the opportunity for the public to be heard. Yes, you're fast-tracking the process. Your weekly meetings were encouraged because of the world health crisis we're in right now. It's understandable to have the weekly meetings, but it should have been focused on the world health crisis and not be used as a situation to have non-action items 1 week and the next week as action items. But I don't disagree with having weekly meetings, but not in a situation of creating where the public doesn't have a fair chance to be connected. And let me also remind you is what is on the public's mind right now is not necessarily they're focused on what you're doing there, though your job is very important. They're looking at what's going on around them, what's going around in the community in this world health emergency. But that conversation you have with them, you need to have that opportunity even more before you make those decisions. And by the way, as I'm speaking to you now, there's a delay, and the delay just started on the internet showing that I'm being asked to speak, shows you the length of delay the internet is working with what I'm saying. And also, those on the internet, some systems working to lower the volume way down so they can't really hear. These are the things of IT that needs to be addressed. And you have a good IT department, but we're now also restricted to only talk by phone. And I understand that situation, but I am concerned this. At the last meeting, there was no indication you were going to take that direction. Who decided that? How did the public know that this change that they had to do hours before the meeting, sign up, and this is what's going to happen? That created a situation where people who were not told about that didn't have a chance at tonight's meeting, and that's not right either. But again, on the issue of safety, I understand this situation. and how it's being spent. But to remind you is you need to tie with the people before you make those decisions so they have a real fair chance. And a footnote, I sent you all, including the Borough Assembly and others, a copy of my report to the Borough Assembly and you concerning the way things are being run, particularly the Borough Assembly. Last night, it was a total fiasco. It was chaos. Even when the lobbyist report was given, you couldn't hear a single word. Even on issues of the governor's vetoes, you couldn't hear a single word. That affects, with my knowledge, the public knowledge, how it affects you all and the funding and so forth. That's what's happened. They don't have an IT scenario right now capable of having a remote listening to the meeting. That's what's going on with the Borough Assembly. And that should concern everyone, more than 100,000 people that live in the Matsu Valley. And I want to thank you, and I wish you the best. And I hope we get through this and we can go forward into a learning experience and so forth. And thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to item 10. Future items, future business. Upcoming meetings. April 14th, 2020 at 1 p.m. There will be an executive session for the superintendent search at the Matsu Borough Central Office. April 15th, 2020, there will be a 6 p.m. regular school board meeting at Matsu Borough Central Office. Might be via telecom. April 22, 2020 at 6 p.m. there'll be a regular school board meeting, Matsu Borough Central Office, and that too may also be via telecom. Moving on to item 11, correspondence and board committee reports.
President Berge,
Go ahead, Mr. Larson.
the one on the superintendent search, is that teleconference also?
We will probably do a similar setting to what we're doing now. There'll be some teleconference and some in the building. Right now, Ms. Gardner is working, hopefully she's working with the executive search committee to fully flesh that out, and hopefully by Friday I can get something to you on that.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 11, correspondence and board committee reports. Has there been any correspondence received, Dr. Goyette, or by any board members? No? How about any committee meetings? Okay, hearing none. Moving on to comments from school board and administration. Dr. Goyette.
Assistant Superintendent Spargo? Thank you. I have no further
President
questions.
Berge?
Yes, Mr. Ponder.
We can hear ourselves amongst each other on the phone, but I guess it's not coming through over there. I think Member Taylor was trying to catch you right before moving to Superintendent.
Mr. Taylor, did you have something for the board?
I have some correspondence that I'm receiving that I just want to bring before the board. I'm just receiving the phone calls and letters regarding music teachers out at Houston High, and I don't know what more to say about that, but I'm receiving quite a bit regarding that position out there. So that's what I'll say about that.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Dr. Goyette.
So when the board receives those emails and they're either forwarded on to administration, or administration is included if it's all school board members, we reach out to all of those individuals through the supervisor for that school. In terms of Houston High School, when the two schools merged, there was a music teacher at each school, and so we maintain that staffing when they went over. Music is a site-based decision. There are some district-wide teachers that are placed, like career and technical education, where we designate what the program is going to be at a school, but the number of music teachers at a school is a principal-based decision. That being said, though, we are supportive. We understand Mr. Howard has a music teacher that is leaving through attrition. Many of his core courses, especially mathematics, were very high this year, and so he's restructuring that position. And it is not uncommon with the enrollment that is at that school for our high schools and middle schools to have only one music teacher. That's pretty standard at that number of students for parity for other schools.
I know the concern that was raised was that they would be losing some of their band, jazz band, other bands like that, jazz and some ensembles and marching band, was the concerns that was raised. So will one teacher be able to handle those, or will those just go away? Do we know?
No, we're going to ask Mr. Howard to communicate out with the community what that individual's schedule will look like, including extracurricular. Oftentimes, marching band is something that is offered outside the school day, and we can also have that in next Tuesday's Board Connect.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Goyette, go ahead and continue on.
Assistant Superintendent Fulp.
No comments, thank you.
I just have one comment that I would like to make in regards to last week when we did publish this agenda. We did notice on there that public testimony was only going to be telephonic. So we did give 7 days prior notice on that. And I also announced it in our Facebook, and then we mass notified all of our families. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Olson. Mr. Larson, I'm sorry. Mr. Larson.
That's fine. You can call me what that's not the worst thing I've ever been called. But I want to thank the staff for the extensive reports. The Superintendent Spargo, they are very lengthy and very well put together, and gives the board a lot of information to go over and to be able to make a sound decision on them. As far as Alaska Middle College Read, I will accept that. As most of the board members know, I don't have a high school or a middle school in my district, which is just the way not the way we did it, it's just the way the state board had split up the district. So I will be honored to do that, and I thank you for that. I appreciate the update from Superintendent Goyette on the virus, and I appreciate the weekly meetings on updates because of the fast track and all the information that changes on this daily. It not only keeps us updated, but it keeps also all the staff, teachers, CEA staff, everybody updated, and I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Trimmer.
I want to thank all of the staff and teachers for doing the job they're doing and going through what they're doing to learn everything they need to make this successful, and just thank the administration for having us be able to do this the way that we do and the quality that we have with our IT department handling all of this. And that's it. Have a good night.
Mr. Ponder.
I just want to give another big shout out to, again this week, to Dr. Goyette and all of the administrative staff there at District for all that they're getting done, and they consistently stay ahead of everything from the beginning of all this. When it was maybe not even a headline in the newspaper, they were making decisions, and they were spot on with those decisions that affected the district. I continue to support and thank them for making those hard decisions. And sometimes not everybody likes those decisions, but really appreciate all that they've done. And I will look forward to seeing some of the things that we talked about in Board Connect and next week. Thank you very much. Oh, and one last comment. Everybody else is giving big shout outs to a lot of teachers all throughout the entire district. There's a great 5th grade teacher out there, Miss Bleicher at Cottonwood Elementary School, who's I can attest to a phenomenal job she's doing just with my daughter. And so just awesome what these teachers are doing and the innovation that they're implementing into the classrooms and on such short notice to create a whole new virtual curriculum. So great job. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
Sorry, it took me a minute to push my buttons. I want to just thank a lot of people there. Ms. Fargo, thank you for the update on the remote learning. I'm just amazed and just incredibly excited what I'm seeing with this remote learning. Seeing parents and brothers and sisters coming together in their learning and helping each other in their educational pursuits. The teachers are doing phenomenal, at least from what I see personally and things like that. It's just awesome to see how people are coming together that way, and you're leading that, and I appreciate that, you and Dr. Goyette. I appreciate the explanation on graduation and why we've decided to go to a virtual graduation. I know it's going to be a spectacular thing with the preparation that's going into it and the talent that we have. And I have to believe that it will be unforgettable for those who view it, participate in it. I'm excited to see that. I do have a son who's a senior and a niece who's a senior, and they both wish they could do, their graduation as normal. But they are understanding of what's going on. So thank you. And then Mr. Brown, thank you for all you're doing on Houston High. It's nice to see it. It's just awesome to see it on track. That we're moving as planned, that things are looking good out there for 2021, 2022 opening to that building. So thank you. And then last, I just want to thank the comments. I want to just express my appreciation with comments about how involved the public needs to be. I agree that we need to give them the time to view what we are doing and to make sure they're involved in that. But anyway, thank you to everybody, and to you as board members, thank you. This has been quite a learning curve, and I appreciate you.
Dr. Welton.
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for their input tonight. I appreciate that. I like things to move along, and that's not always the best thing. Sometimes we actually can get down to some better conversations, and hopefully we will all do our homework so that we can do that. I do want to say that I really appreciate hearing from the teachers and the support staff on what they are doing. It's, I don't have children in the home. I have grandchildren, and I'm just FaceTiming them, so I'm really not seeing or hearing all the things that are going on in the schools. I try to find out, and I found that my granddaughter is missing the social life. My grandson loves being alone and not with other people. So it depends on personality. And somebody told me that this is the introvert's dream, to have to be at home and not have to go out. The discussion about grief and loss, the loss of the graduation ceremony as we have known it, is something that is difficult, especially if that is something that is been the main focus of getting through. And hopefully we can find that there are new celebrations and new things to do. And I would like to say that grief and loss is something that many of us are experiencing, with lack of being able to visit our friends, lack of being able to go out to dinner even, those kinds of things. So make sure that you understand why you might be feeling the way you are. as far as the graduations are concerned, when I was walking my district a couple years back, I found that I also had, besides the Wasilla High, Rochelle, and Matsu Central, I also had some students from Houston High in my district and also Colony High in my district. So we are a district-wide, and I want to celebrate all of our students and hope that they all understand that we are here for all of them, not just the schools in our district. And people move around, and sometimes they're in one school one year and another school the next year. And Matsu Central, of course, draws from everywhere. So they are all our students, and I care about all of them. Thank you.
Member Hart.
Yeah, I'd like to ditto the compliments to all the staff, the teachers who are making education possible. Keep up the good work. We're really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward again to the after action report to find out what the challenges were, what we need to overcome for the years ahead. And to that, I'd like to say thank you very much to Mike Brown. He's been doing a lot of heavy lifting, and the IT side of it in particular, I'm sure, has been well exercised, and of course that on top of the Houston High School reconstruction. So, Mike, I'm glad to see your continued excellence. You were fantastic as an Army officer, and it's good to see that you're continuing that tradition. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work, school.
First off, I'd like to apologize to Mr. Larson. I offer no excuse. And moving on, I would like to say the presentations tonight were outstanding. They were very informative, well put together. That was great. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing all the people who called in to participate. It's nice when the public is able to participate in our meetings, and I'm glad that we were able to facilitate their participation during these difficult times. And again, a shout out to all of the staff within the district doing an outstanding job, as evidenced in the presentations tonight, but also the district is coming into my home as well too, as I have children that are participating in the district sponsored programs, and it's nice to see that it is working, and it's working due to your continued efforts and diligent work. So with that, I will say good night. And can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, is there any objection? None, we are adjourned.